We be live. Hello, Durud and Shalom. Guys, we just got detailed that in July there was a assassination attempt on President Trump. This report just came out, and there's a lot more to it than we originally like. You know how President Trump switched planes when he went to Turkey on his way back? This it was actually a lot more significant than people realized, and there's a lot more to that story, and I'm going to discuss that with our group over here. So, guys, this is our discussion group. You could come. We have daily group calls, and I'm going to go jump into the group call that is happening right now. You could come join us and talk to us there. The link is in the description. The link is in the QR code at the top left. And so, yes, the link is also in the live chat, right? So let me see the group call already here. So that's the topic that I want to first talk about before we go to the other topics that the group is talking about. But I'm going to jump right in. They're probably in the middle of a conversation or something, and then I'm going to steer the conversation to this, and then we have to see what they have to say. So go, Durud, hello again. I see you guys in the chat. I'll try to keep an eye on both of them at the same time. So let's just try and jump right into our group call.
Own freaking life instead of working.
You and Armin both deserve a vacation. Oh, hey, Armin.
Hello,
Norman.
Mary Sherry. How about that? I don't know. Is that good? Hi, guys. Hello. Okay, fantastic.
Mary.
That's good. You like that?
That was funny. Okay. Turnabout fair play, darling.
Yeah. I love that. All right. So, guys, who's modding today?
We're both modding because we're both too easygoing and it's too hard to decide which of us is modding. So I'll mod first.
Okay, so sounds good. Okay, you went first. All right, so before we start, I just wanted to let you guys know about this amazing news that just came out. That you guys remember in July when President Trump was attending the NATO summit in Turkey, and he switched planes because there was a threat against him. So he switched from the Qatari plane to Air Force One because apparently the Air Force One was not as safe, but given the threats, apparently the threat was so much bigger, and the story is also a lot more than what we realized. So let me just tell you, okay? So this was in July. President Trump attended the NATO summit in Ankara, Turkey. After the summit wrapped up, Trump boarded the classic blue and white Boeing, the Air Force One. That's what he did in field view to make the reporters see that. So he switched from the Qatari plane to Air Force One, and in front of the cameras. And then he even interviewed some a mic is open. I'm hearing some background. And he they had the interview, he answered questions, but then after all of that was over, he had a secret exit. So this is what we didn't know. This is now we know. So he didn't do the Qatari plane. He didn't do even Air Force One. After apparently there was a major threat against them. So after he talked to the reporters, minutes after, he secretly stepped outside, and and with a core group of senior aides, they moved to another aircraft, not Air Force One, that in a way that the press cameras could not see. I don't know how they did that. And an airport catering truck equipped with hydraulic lift. They apparently put him in a catering truck, the president and the core team. That was used to load everything and the flight meals and everything, and the president to another plane. Trump stepped into a catering truck container. The truck was lowered back to tarmac levels and driven across the airport runway to a smaller U.S. military aircraft. So they made it seem like he came back to home with with Air Force One, but he was on a military plane. He secretly got out, went to a military plane, and he secretly, once the plane landed in the U.S., they secretly moved him to Air Force One again, and he came out of Air Force One, making it seem like this entire time he was in Air Force One. So there was a decoy flight. Traveling journalists and several White House staff members boarded the Legacy 747, completely unaware that the president was no longer on board. So the plane, the people, all the reporters and everybody were on the Air Force One, thinking that they're flying with the president, but the president was not on a plane. Press members were instructed by security personnel to lower their window shades for takeoff. The Legacy Boeing 747 took off towards RAF. So again, I'm not going to read the names because I'm going to mispronounce them. Flight tracking data show. Okay, again, this is too much detail, but this shows that there was a very significant threat against President Trump's life by the Islamic Republic. Given that the threat was this high, it shows that there was a organized plan to kill President Trump by the Islamic Republic. Like, this is not people just chanting in the streets and virtue signaling regarding, like, it's not just for show. There was a detailed state-sponsored plan by the Islamic Republic to kill President Trump. I don't know how much that's going to affect President Trump's decision. I hope it is, because I think President Trump would be taking this level of the fact that he had to do all of this, to me suggests that he's taking the assassination threat very seriously. I mean, I hope he is, and that might make an impact on what he's about to do to the Islamic Republic. I don't know if it will, but again, the fact that the Islamic Republic is that serious about killing President Trump is significant, because just because this failed, it doesn't mean that they're going to stop. There are a lot of ways, unfortunately, to, in the dark web, to provide rewards for such an act by people who are already in the United States. And President Trump already almost died in an assassination, but by an amateur. And given that now we know the Islamic Republic is this serious about actually killing President Trump, given that President Trump almost already died by the hands of an amateur, I think more Americans should pay attention to how significant this is. Because if you put more money actually behind such an operation, then we're going to get professionals trying to do something like this. And, it can happen. Like, I think, like, some people think I'm exaggerating this, but I've been talking about this potentially happening at some point. And I think not enough people are talking about this. Anyway, so I just wanted to start with that, with this crazy new. Looks like a Hollywood spy movie or something, the way they're talking about it. But yeah, let's go to what people have to say in the chat.
Okay, we have some twos. Let's go to Sherry first.
Armin, I do specifically remember those news reports a while ago. I do remember those. But I also recall that we didn't get a lot of details in any way, shape, or form. So I appreciate you sharing the details on how that worked out. It seems like the news that you're sharing comes late, but that's only because they haven't shared it. But there's no doubt that Trump was aware of what happened, and I appreciate you sharing those details. But I do recall very well the news reports where he decided to change his flight. Thank you for sharing all that, those details that I wasn't aware of. Thank you.
Okay, Noah.
First of all, I love it. The story that how it does sound like a Hollywood script. But I do have one thing to clarify. So any Air Force military aircraft that the president rides on is called Air Force One. And it goes on the same with any Marine helicopter or plane. It would be called Marine One, any Army, etc. So the small aircraft, if it was military, it would have been called Air Force One still, but I digress. But it was very clever that they had had a decoy, and they usually have decoy planes just in case something like this were to happen. So it's very clever that they had this. But there have been 2 attempts on his life, and those are the ones that we know about. And I could go on and on about this, but yeah, those are the ones we know about, and it's very good that they had this plan and they were able to execute it, and he was able to come home safely.
All right, thanks, Noah. Now, Richard.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, I second that. And I just wanted to add, I think a couple of things to pull from this is that the extent to which the Islamic Republic is going to remove Trump suggests probably 2 things. One is that they do see him as some kind of existential threat, that despite all the setbacks we've seen, the Islamic Republic is still seeing him as a potential, means to end the regime. And the second thing I think is more unfortunate. They probably are going to extreme lengths like this to remove Trump because they see Vance as an ally, and that is something to be concerned about.
All right, Raham.
Yeah, I heard about this a couple of days ago, and I thought it was hilarious. The first thing the first thing I thought was, this guy's pretty big. How the hell did he fit down into the lift and stuff to go comfortably in this? It must not have been a super comfortable thing for him to do, and it probably pissed him off. And the thing that I can't remember was this was the same incident where they said that he didn't get into the Air Force One plane provided by Qatar, or that was a different flight, right? So I think was this the same one, Armin?
No, so this is the same event, but with more details. So we just got the more details now. This is new. This is from hours ago. So we knew that he didn't use the Qatari plane. He used the traditional plane that he uses, right? We know that he made that switch, but now we know that there was 2 switches. He didn't even use the traditional plane. Minutes later, he secretly exited the via a catering truck on the far side of the aircraft, and basically went to this other military plane. So it wasn't the Qatari plane. It wasn't the traditional Air Force One. It was in a way that none of the reporters could be seen. He was moved to a military plane using a catering truck. And then when he made it back to the US, he probably used the same way to get back to the traditional Air Force One to make it seem like he was on that plane all the time.
That's right. Yeah, because I remember him going back to Air Force One over security reasons of the Qatari one. And yeah, so now it was a double switch. That's pretty crazy. So this must have been a really, really substantial threat that they took it this seriously, because usually brushes it off, and I'm glad they did. So I'm sure they're going to be making a lot of good movies for about what happened in the past year. It's been interesting.
Thanks, Raham. Let's go to Jose next.
The interesting about all this is the fact that, yes, Armin, looks like it's getting serious. So you have to look at their attempt to hire the cartels that operate out of Mexico and the United States. Now, all of a sudden, that becomes a more serious threat. Also, since he's returned to office, I believe last year there was a female in the Carolinas who was trying to hire someone to assassinate Trump on Twitter or X or whatever, I think. And then recently there was a guy that put a message out on, I forget the platform, but it was a video platform, TikTok, okay, saying that, hey, Trump, I'm giving you 2 choices, and this is for, anyway, non-metagame.
Oh, Jose froze for me.
Yep, he's frozen. Okay, let's go to next. I think he's about 10. Jeffrey?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes, we could hear you. Go,
Okay.
Jose.
I said that this guy told as a message to Trump, resign your presidency or I'll take you out. And the FBI picks him up almost immediately. But yeah, so things are starting to get a little bit on the scary side.
Yeah. Okay, Jeffrey.
So yeah, I mean, the White House releases the details surrounding the Secret Service's efforts to offset actionable intelligence that there was a credible threat against President Trump's life. So what is it? So yeah, the first response, it was kind of covered in July 8th, 2026. President Trump's departure from the NATO summit in Ankara, Turkey. They have a credible or actionable intelligence regarding a significant threat posed via missile attack on the president's aircraft amid U.S. Iranian, Mullah regime tensions. The explained public story at the time is, President Trump switched to the older Air Force One, so troops in the UK could tour the newer Qatari donated jet. That's like the story they gave as part of their tactical misdirection. You have detailed the actual security operation that came out right now. So he does this switcheroo. He gets into a smaller C-32A aircraft. An older plane flew as a decoy, right, to have them go after things that don't have the president on them. As far as what that signals, I mean, it signals the totality of this conflict, and that the fact that the Mullah regime remnants, are very much in an all or nothing kind of position. They've gone down the S curve, prospect of being risk averse and risk accepting because they have nothing left to lose, and that existed independent of U.S. actions in no insignificant matter. Not that U.S. actions and Israeli actions aren't significant, didn't contribute to it. The point is, these are pseudo-theologically motivated whack jobs who think that are willing to burn everything down to the ground if it ushers in the new the Mahdi. So it signals how committed they are, and that this threat is inelastic. Yeah. And that would then result in the conclusion that they have to go. As far as like the idea that they're playing tactical, like they being the Mullah regime remnants is playing 4D chess because they view Vance as a preferable successor. I have a hard time believing that. I mean, I have issues with Vance, to be sure, like his position on things. The idea that the regime is targeting President Trump and not Vance. I mean, I'm pretty sure they're targeting Vance too. Everybody in the administration. So as soon that doesn't, I don't. I mean, if that is what they're thinking, that's very much a miscalculation on their behalf. If the Mullah regime was to successfully take out the president of the United States, the response would be so ungodly and so brutal. It would be like that would be the end of them. I think it's them, the Mullah regime remnants, ramping up and doubling down and putting a lot of their effort into taking out administration officials, including President Trump, is more illustrative of the pseudo-theological motive elements that underwrite their motive, and the fact that they now frame their position from such a domain of loss that they figure they have nothing left to lose, and that domain of loss existed even before operations, because the Mullah regime is very clear, as Armin and Ali and everybody else has correctly, that seems like, has outlined on their shows, respective shows. The Iranian people are done with these fucking assholes. They're done starving. They're done being kidnapped and tortured in the dark. They're done having their daughters raped by these besieged fucks. They're done having, like, the Mullah regime that's illegally occupied Iran rob Iran and them of the resources of Iran to pursue all kinds of crazy shit while they have a hard time buying fucking food or having, like, be turning on the tap to get water. Like, they're done with that shit. So all that points to the fact that the regime has to go. And, me and other guys are pushing to find ways, any number of ways to do that. And all of you are involved in the battle of the narratives to ensure that policy is realized. Glad to be back, by the way, guys. Missed all you guys.
Oh,
Thanks for coming back, Jeffrey. Okay, let's go back to Sherry.
First thing I wanted to just say is, thank God Moo is back. Thank you, Uncle Jeff, for being back. We did miss you. The second thing I wanted to say is I actually wanted to ask Jeff about this. So, obviously, I don't feel like they understand if they would take out Trump, what that would actually end up looking like in the long run. For two reasons. Yeah, I'm not really crazy about not really crazy about Vance. However, Vance is supposed to be very good friends with Trump Jr. So I don't understand what they think they would accomplish other than, oh, I got muscle, oh, I got this, oh, I got that. But I just don't think they understand the US and how that would end up playing out. Because even if I don't care for Vance or whatever, you take out my president, it's going to be uglier, I think, than they have a grasp of understanding. Am I right on that, Jeff, or am I wrong?
I think that they understand. They being the Mullah regime, now regime remnants, I think they don't care because they're down the gas curve of prospect. They're being risk averse from risk acceptant and figure they got nothing left to lose, which is very correct, right? Regardless if that loss is realized via Iranian people who have rightly had enough of this fucked up regime, and or exogenous actions by exogenous actors like the United States, Gulf state allies, our Israeli allies. I mean, they fired at everybody, right? Everybody's aggravated with them. So, except for members of the autocratic bloc, who they're essentially the friggly ass, toothless, pickle eating hobo whore for. I mean, they know that. So, I think they understand. I just think that they're just an all or nothing actor based on the mix of the nature of their motivations and where they're at because everybody's tired of their shit.
Okay.
Okay, so you believe that they do understand it, but they don't give a fuck, per se.
Jeffrey says yes. All right, let's go to Neil Bunny now.
I just wanted to quickly say that if you were Trump and you had to go through all of this under these constant threats and do all of this stuff, would you really want a deal? If you could actually crush them into a fine powder, I contend that you wouldn't.
Okay, and then last on this topic is Shauna.
Sorry, phone delay. I would agree that they don't understand. I also think that there's a lot of leftists in America that don't understand. And I'm going to pull back from my general area and background, but I think Jeffrey will be very aware of this as well. Is that there's a lot of Union Bro, Blue Dog, dyed in the wool Democrats that are also vets. That if you fuck with the president, they're gonna go mad. They might hate Trump with every fiber of their being, but at the end of the day, he's still their president. And if you fuck with him, take him out and do something like that, they are gonna wake up and activate. There's a lot of our own, I call them patriotic silent sleepers in this country, where maybe they're very leftist. I don't agree with them on anything, but they are also vets and they will kind of rise up when the occasion strikes. I think of the people who were very anti-Bush prior to 9/11, and as soon as 9/11 hit, they went and signed up for the reserves. I know people like that. So and I'm sure Jeffrey does too. Like they're like, maybe they don't, like I said, we don't agree with them on most things, but when it comes to defending the country, they will form a line. And there's a lot of people like that in this country. And I do think that is underestimated by our enemies.
Okay, I'm trying to move on. So I'll have a couple of sentences each, please, from Richard and Sherry. Richard, go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to say I hope you're right, but I don't share your optimism. I don't trust leftists when it comes to putting the country first, and I don't trust Vance to prosecute the war. That's just my opinion.
Thanks. And Sherry?
I just wanted to say to Sean, and thank you so much. I hope you're effing right, because I do hang out at a vet bar, and I know a lot of veterans, and I hope you're right. I think you're correct, but I hope when it comes down to the push and shove that you're absolutely 100% correct.
Okay, go to Super Chats.
Okay, we got Stephanie with the Go Trophy, 1,000 jewels with Go Trophy. Thank you, Stephanie. And then we got Fit Over 50 Fitness with 10 jewels. Thank you both. Thank you guys for the jewels. I appreciate you guys. Okay, that's it.
All right, then let's go to our first topic by Raham about an execution in Iran.
Uncle Copium was gonna go, so let him go, and then I'll go after. Because he has to go soon. He was saying I'm okay to switch.
Sorry, I put the switch in one list, but not that. Uncle is gonna be first about builds, bombs, bonds, and China's SPR. Is this a tongue twister?
No, kind of, quite. Thank you, by the way, Ram, for letting me go first. I've been wanting to share this with you guys for over a week, but it kind of never gotten through. So, I'm going to have to give you guys a fair warning here that I will have to be a bit information dense and comprehensive, and it will seem like a few separate things, but you will understand. Like, I'm going to hope you understand that this is it's all connected. So that's why I have to lay it out like that. And I'm going to try to
But try to make it simple and to the point, okay? So
yes.
Okay.
So the three things I'm going to touch on is the American reindustrialization and the Japanese carry trade and the Chinese SPR. And you're going to understand why all these are connected together to both US reindustrialization and the conflict in Iran. So starting with the reindustrialization, last time, a few weeks ago, I mentioned about how the copper was crucial and how corporate America signals that would be something that strengthened US resolve. Now, there is another facet to that executive order that actually makes a counter, that makes an impediment for the Americans, make it much more difficult. And that is that, simply put, the private equity companies have been integrated into the plumbing of the US pension funds in order to facilitate for the financing. And because private equities have a profit incentive, when you put them in the public sector, this is often an expense expressed in the bond markets, which pushes yields up. Now, this is going to be a recurring thing I'm going to touch on because it's very important. These infrastructure projects last for 5, 10, 20, 30 years. So those kind of yields are highly relevant. So that, if you put that then in the context of the conflict in Iran with heightened oil prices and so forth, you see a double whammy where you see that actually the conflict in Iran is actually working against this because higher yields that are made risks a budgetary implosion. So while I said, yes, copper prices skyrocketing causes a budgetary implosion, the yields will be much more expansive. Which thus brings me over to the second segment here, which is the Japanese carry trade having made some momentous changes. And for that, I need to actually explain for a little bit for those who don't know. Japan tends to be having interest rates at very low rates or even negative, meaning that, if I'm the Bank of Japan and I lend you money at negative interest rates, when you pay back the money you borrowed, I pay you interest, which sounds really strange, right? But there's a reason for that. The way the Japanese are doing it is by issuing massive loans and bonds in yen that they use to buy US dollars, and then often through US treasuries, but also through the equity market, generally speaking. And then they get a higher return on that than they would get on interest. So, sounds sweet. What's the problem with that? Well, the problem becomes that it is a pretty pervasive incentive structure that is also kind of perverse. in the sense that, well, US, Japan can be getting extra revenue, and this is one of the reasons Japan's economy gets strong. They've also deprived themselves of one of the most principal instruments to protect your currency, namely interests. So they have recently increased the interest rate with 1%, which sounds like nothing, but keep in mind, 1% on bonds means 1% less returns on the investment you have in the United States, making a strong signal, which causes a lot of Japanese yen to go back to Japan. And this creates a big gap that the Americans must fill. And it is also very threatening because this increases yields again, doubly so. And the thing with now this is a very difficult incentive structure for the Japanese to break, because if you are an institutional investor from Japan, you're not only getting the returns on investment from the United States, but precisely because you cannot protect your currency and it depreciates, you get more yen. So you get more influence inside Japan. But eventually this got broken, and that's because, like all quintessential strengths, it has a quintessential weakness, namely it's import dependent. So when Japan needs to import oil at higher oil prices, not only does that hurt, but they get a double whammy because the currency is depreciated. So in addition to that, this is where some of the really momentous changes have occurred, is where the Japan, of course, what they have done before is then to sell US treasuries to get the dollar in order to import the petrol. The problem with that, and this is where it gets back to US reindustrialization, that when you sell the bonds, that will increase the yields, and that directly threatens your reindustrialization. So what the Americans have done then to cope with this is twofold. One, they sacrificed this monkey money called the euro, which is typically used in the Soviet Union, aka the EU, which is kind of interesting because that's going to segue us over to the third part soon. But the second measure they took is called FEMA, not FEMA like Federal Emergency, but Foreign Investment something something. The bottom line TLDR of this one is that instead of printing money to buy US Treasury bonds, what they're doing is printing money they take the US Treasuries as collateral, and then they print out the money and give it. So Japan, instead, for this case, instead of them selling the bonds, which would increase the yields, the temporary approach here that the Americans have done have prevented this. But this is a short-term measure, okay? Because if these start rolling over, these transactions, you're going to have very strong inflationary pressure, and then we're back to the yields going up, and your infrastructure projects might be just half finished, right? So all that I'm saying here is that all the things are actually making it harder for the Americans to go at the Islamic Republic because of the oil prices. So it's a bit more clear understood. But I cannot be just bringing you guys bad news, because that will make me an asshole. And thus, I'll present to you this will be shorter, I promise, the Chinese SPR. So Armin and Ali have been pointing out sometimes on the strategic petroleum reserves, on the A2 analysis, which I highly recommend people watching to go over after the stream. Pretty good. But there's some things that missed, and this is, I'm sure you're going to appreciate. It's not the Western SPRs being depleted that have depressed oil prices the most significantly. It's helped, but not the most. That there are some ships that have gone through, that has mattered quite a bit, but it's still not the most significant. A waiver on Russian sanctions, sure significant, but still not the most significant, in part because the Ukrainians have thrown that waiver, if you know. No, the most significant is actually Chinese demand destruction, which is in part because of global downturn, economic downturn, and US reindustrialization. Right? I told you, all of this connects together. So due to US reindustrialization and prior methods, the Chinese have not only slowed down production, but they've shut down refineries and factories before they belly up. And so when the conflict in Iran happened, what they did was double down on that demand destruction. They were not going to hedge their bets on uncertainty. They saw the writing on the wall, because they will be importing a lot. It will be, very, very expensive to have a lot of products that you have no seller for. So they unwinded a bunch of oil import contracts, and they were able to do so because much of their oil supply comes from the Gulf, and those who are contractually obliged to supply could not. So the Chinese got a little bit lucky in this regard. Now, from that, this is where it starts paying off for the Americans a bit, because they have accelerated that, right, to lower the imports. They have also been, when the ceasefire they also bought in and filled their strategic petroleum reserve. So we're tapping ever so lightly into it when it was on a high prices to cushion the industries that they did want to keep. So while the West is draining it, China is filling it. And why is that maybe a saving grace for the Americans? Because if the Americans are dependent on having manageable oil prices, what do you think the Chinese are? So what they are certainly going to do, whether it is be hard limit on SPRs, extremely efficient attack on Russian oil, straight up Hormuz being closed, whatever it is that shoots the oil prices high, Japan is almost certainly going to be releasing their SPR and unwind even more oil import contracts to keep the oil prices at a manageable level. And they will be doing this for a while. This will help the Americans. And if that were to be exhausted, they have been the biggest purchaser of gold. So if they start relying on that, then gold prices will go down and the dollar will get stronger and the yields will get weaker. So the Americans will thus be helped, which is maybe the last part I'm a little bit unsure on, so don't quote me entirely on that, but it seems to be something, it's an ironic twist that, the Americans will sacrifice the euros and then they would kind of be ending up leaning more on the commies on the opposite ocean. So, yeah, that was it. I'm sorry if it was a little bit long-winded, but I hope it kind of makes sense that I had to mention all of these combined because this is the bigger picture of it all, that they will explain why the Americans might have to relent as much as they do. So yes, thank you, Danny and Armin for the time.
All right. Thank you, Uncle Topic, for this deep dive. Let's go to the twos. Shay wants to respond first.
First of all, great to have you here when you're sober, Uncle. Not saying I'm always sober here. I'm just saying. You made a lot of sense, and I do appreciate that. Americans do not understand in any way, shape, or form what debt looks like. They really do not understand what our debt looks like. And unfortunately, we have practiced kicking the can in the US. We keep kicking the can down for someone else to end up paying all the interest on everything that's going on. And I get this from this phrase from Rush Limbaugh. It's financial pedophilia, where we just want to make sure we still get everything we've done into what we want to do and how we want to do it, and we let them buy votes. But yeah, I believe 100% that Americans do not understand the debt they're under and who they are bowing to. And I appreciate you sharing that. Thank you. I'm sure Jeff and other people have a lot to say about it.
Well, Jeff is in a call, but Shona has something to say about it.
Yeah, so I agree about the debt. I think that Trump, unfortunately, was he had to kind of make a call on rather not to handle the debt or rather not to fix the economic outgrowth of the United States. And I don't think that I don't know if he could have done both really at the same time anyway. And so I think what his goal is to rebuild our output and make us a growing economy, not an economy that produces, not just consumes again. And so that we can actually start tackling that interest. And it's a gamble. It's, robbing Peter to pay Paul, so to speak. But I think he didn't have a whole lot of options in front of him. And he's like kind of looking at the macro. I will also say that there's a lot of things the U.S. is doing to try to reduce our. One of the things that we're doing with this reindustrialization is reducing the amount of oil that we need with reshoring, friendshoring, and then nearshoring, and then what I am calling new shoring, which seems to be a term that I invented, which basically means that we are creating new products that we haven't typically created before because there's new industry for it. So this would be like certain types of robotics. We're using some parts here We're working with Japan and Germany and other countries. Like we're doing a bunch of that stuff. So I'm calling it new shoring because it's a new economy. They're using things like old automobile buildings, for example, to install robotics for meat processing. It's a new type of industry that will require new types of skills that they're also rebuilding within the areas that they're taking over. There's plants. They're also investing in the schools there. So that's why I'm calling it new shoring. So that I think is his long game. I honestly think one of the reasons why I become a big fan of Trump is he's the first president in my lifetime who perhaps is the only one who had the opportunity to do this. I don't know, but he's certainly the first one who's looked beyond his term to try to solve a problem. And maybe some of it will work, maybe some of it won't, but I think he's actually trying something rather than just looking at the next election. So that's my take.
Okay, thank you, Shana. Let's go next to Monkey.
Yeah, when you're friendshoring, reusing plans, like reinvesting, and you have, these mechanisms, they're great. And but we're talking a little bit about the bond markets. We're talking about a little bit about debt. And one of the things is that if you have a lot of dollars in your bank, in your system as a government, and the dollar falls, you're in trouble. What good is the dollar to you if you can't use it to buy stuff in USA or anywhere you want to buy it, right? So that's part of like why sometimes having debt is like, okay, so I owe you dollars. If the dollar is worth nothing, what does it matter what I owe you? It's worthless. If you want to get paid, you want my dollar to be worth something, right? Right? So that's very important in this equation. So how did we do this to China where you're trying to get these dollars, but now we cut off 40% of your imports? And 40% is not nothing. It's a lot. Like imports were cut by 40%, and it was done before the war. We cut off Venezuela from their oil supply before the war. There's a lot of the reason people say that Trump is playing 5D chess, 64D Jenga. It's not for nothing, right? It's not that we're saying he's like he's super extra special, but when it comes to business, you can see that moves that were made long ago. And people were saying, I don't like the tariffs. Tariffs are terrible. Yeah, unless you have to go to war with Iran. And then they're great because then you don't have to count on all these factories really far away. Right? Because you made these tariffs so you don't need China. You made these tariffs so all these companies that were building cars in Mexico have to build in America or they're tariffed. So you're securing your local industry, right? So like I want you guys to see everything that Uncle Coping said and remember all the moves that were made since the president got in office. Everything to do with industry, everything to do with tariffs, everything to do with oil production, everything to do with nuclear. All of these moves were made before the war. All the moves with Venezuela, all the moves in South America, all the moves with Argentina to get them producing more oil. There's so many moves going on in all these markets, not just like Japan, China, and the Eurozone. There's so many moves all over the planet that goes into what Uncle Coping was talking about that you start to see, okay, so this is why they say he plays, 5D chess. And maybe Uncle Coping, and what I'm talking about, this goes into your point, right? I don't know, like maybe you can put a 2 in.
Right.
Just yes. I'll just say yes. Generally, you are on topic if that's what you're asking.
Right. All right. Let's also hear from Jose.
Out of curiosity, do you guys think that the current, I believe a deal was struck with the United States and Japan to give Japan Golden Dome? Could that have been a sweetener to get them to work with the economic? I'm wondering if Jeffrey knows anything about that. Because I know I posted it to the group chat and I didn't get any comments, but I got a lot of views.
Let's go back to Uncle Coping to wrap us up.
Yes, thank you. Just a quick thing. It's worth noting, which is I think Jewish Samantha might appreciate that I'm going to mention this, because one thing that Grease Monkey was touching on that you will notice is that, for example, the stock market and many of those things, they are now increasingly moved by political decisions. Which is to say that we have moved away from a free market economy over to a managed economy, defined by it being principally moved by large financial institutions, which is, just to be clear, like we're talking about big corporations as well that operate with a planned economy and so forth. So like these dogmatic things about communism and capitalism, they are increasingly blurred about this. I'm not saying this is right or wrong. I'm just saying like worth to keep in mind, like these measures are state capitalist measures, which is not a bad thing, but it is what it is, right? So I just figured I'd put that in. But I'll have to go though, guys. So I'll be listening in. So thank you for the time.
All right, thank you. With that, let's go check on super chats.
All right, we got one super chat by Van Dyke Veld saying young Dems are basically allies of IRGC. They'll cheer for them. Yep. I mean, not just young, the Democratic Party as a whole is an ally of the Islamic Republic. I mean, at least that's how the Islamic Republic sees it. That's why they're really trying to get the Democrats to win in the midterms. So it's the relationship works both ways. The Democrats seems to be an ally of the Islamic Republic, but also the Islamic Republic seems to be doing its best when it comes to oil prices and also all of their networks and the lobby groups and the think tanks that they have in the United States to try to make the Democrats win. I mean, yeah, the Democratic Party has to think if the enemy of the United States is trying to make their party win, that has to, I don't know, that should cause some self-reflection, but I doubt that it will. I mean, maybe it doesn't need to because they're already anti-American. Many of them are already anti-American. And thank you, Van Dyvel. Thank you so much for the support. All right, that was that.
Okay, then next topic we go to Raham about the execution in Iran.
Raham? I don't have any audio. Do you guys have audio?
Yeah, I don't have audio. I had audio from him earlier today, so
okay.
Let's say 5 seconds to fix it, or I move on to the next person.
All right.
Okay, Sherry wants to talk about Muslim politicians.
Okay. Sherry.
I just wanted, I'm sorry, Armin. I just wanted to, I thought it was a great topic that you and Monkey talked about earlier today. If nobody is interested, that's fine. But I thought it was very powerful what you were talking about, because most of us Islamophobic, you know, phobia is supposed to be a unjustified fear. But I believe that Americans are 100% justified in our fear of Islam. And I think it speaks for itself. But I just thought it was interesting. If nobody else wants to talk about it, that's fine. But you had shared an interview you had with a Muslim woman who was absolutely, you know, is not Islamist, etc. But I just thought it would be an interesting topic for us today. Because I just, and I voiced this before earlier today, but you know, I'm sorry, I'm not interested. I think you brought up some good points. And you know, just imagine what it would be like for a Muslim Republican, etc. But I want you and Monkey to share more about that than I do.
All right, so this goes back to me saying that there is no such thing as good Islam, but there are good Muslims, right? So there is no good Islam or bad Islam. All of Islam is bad Islam, right? But there are good Muslims, and good Muslims are Muslims who are not following Islam. Many Muslims who are not. There are many Muslims who are not following Islam. There are many Muslims who don't even know much about Islam. The way, we have fundamentalist Muslims, we have minimalist Muslims, and then we have nominal Muslims, and there have many people in between, right? To truly follow Islam, you have to be a jihadi. Many Muslims are not jihadi, and they're not following Islam. And people might say, like, okay, well, if they're not following Islam, then they're not really Muslim. Well, no, by definition, and as long as you claim you're a Muslim and you believe in Allah and you believe in Muhammad and you believe in the Quran as the word of God, technically you're a Muslim, even if you're not following in the Quran, the words of Quran. You're just a bad Muslim. You're a bad Muslim, which makes you a good human being, but a bad Muslim. And there are many Muslims who are like that, and are on our side. Like, we have Muslims who are pro-Israel, pro-America. Again, they're being a very bad Muslim by being pro these things, right? But still, I disagree with them aggressively regarding their views on Islam, but they're still I still consider them allies. So I was like, we don't have such a thing right now, but I was wondering, like, for example, if we have somebody who says I'm a Muslim, but is, like, for example, a Republican who says I'm a Muslim, believes in free markets, as aggressively against capitalism, aggressively against woke right and woke left, aggressively patriotic American, and very pro-Israel, then I would consider that person to be an ally on our side, even if they're Muslim, even though I still passionately disagree with the Islam, with their view on Islam. And I also like to remind people that we have IDF soldiers that are Muslim, Arab IDF soldiers that are Muslim, that Israel brags about a lot, and they're spokesperson for the IDF. So, and people say that every time a Muslim says such a thing, they're doing taqiyya. I like to remind people that most Muslims don't know what taqiyya is. Taqiyya was mostly known something by the scholars. Most Muslims learn about taqiyya from non-Muslims. And honestly, if the IDF trusts them, then I trust them, because I think, like, the IDF knows, what these people are up to. And again, I have a show. Pro-capitalist. I did. Oh, sorry, did I misspoke? Pro-capitalist. Yeah. So I was talking about, imagine somebody who is a Republican Muslim candidate that is pro-capitalism, anti-communism, pro-Israel, pro-America. If I said anti-capitalism, my mistake. But then, I consider that person to be an ally. So thank you, Dijal, for correcting me. And also, Dijal, let me know what you think about this. Would you consider a person like that to be an ally? Again, just because I see somebody like that as an ally, it doesn't mean that I'm holding back on Islam, right? I mean, in fact, people think I'm being soft. Let me make 2 points, because some people think that because I consider a Muslim like that to be an ally, people think that I'm being soft on Islam. I'm actually very aggressive against Islam. And 2 points to that is, first of all, one reason why I'm against Islam is for the sake of Muslims. I consider Muslims to be victims of Islam. I'm not anti-Islam as a way to be anti-Muslim. I'm anti-Islam. I think the best way to be pro-Muslim is to be anti-Islam. Anti-Islam is a pro-Muslim position. So, 1. 2, I think the most aggressive way to be anti-Islam is to try to befriend Muslims. I think befriending Muslims is the most effective way to be anti-Islamic. That's how you get in. That's how you manage to change people's minds. Being aggressively anti-Muslim is the best way to isolate Muslims into their own communities and lose access to them. But anyways, I'm talking for too much. But yeah, Sherry. By the way, Sherry, this is a very important topic. You keep, like, apologizing, saying I'm sorry if this is people are not interested in. This is a very interesting topic. So you don't need to apologize for the topics that you bring up. But yeah, go on.
I thank you very much for bringing that up. And that's one of the things, one of the reasons I thought this was important to talk about, is there is this very distinct difference between Muslim and Islamists. And I want to ask you a question. Well, not a question, basically a favor. You shared earlier today a a link to a video that you had with a Muslim woman that you absolutely adore. Would you share that in the open link over here?
Yeah.
I would appreciate that. I think most of us would appreciate that. And I do believe, I'm going to stick kind of to something I said, or I feel like most Muslim people in Western society are not searching for running for office and be powerful. However, I do think you had a great dream and imagination on saying, just imagine if that would happen. I would love to see that happen. And I'll let you share more on that you shared earlier today.
Okay. Yeah, so I put the link in the chat. Yeah, it is Dahlia. Nail Bunny knew exactly who that she is. Was it Dahlia? Yes, and Dahlia. Nail Bunny saying, "I love her." Yes, and guys, like Dahlia, for example, is a great example because Dahlia risked her life to defend Israel as a Muslim woman with hijab. She in Egypt, she risked her life to defend Israel. So that is extreme bravery, and I consider her to be our friend. And yeah, please go. I put the link in the chat as well, YouTube chat. Please go watch that. And one more point. Oh, by the way, I know I'm being picky with the language here, but I wouldn't say Muslim. Oh, by the way, Sherry, your mic is open. I wouldn't say Muslim. Some people are Muslim, some people are Islamist, because Islamists might suggest that there's two versions of Islam and Islamism. Islamism is the word that people use for political Islam, but all Islam is political. So I like to say, again, I'll use my categorization, but then I'll tell you what I say other people. So for Islam, it's just Islam. It's not Islam and Islamism, it's just Islam. For people, the way I categorize it is nominal Muslim, minimalist Muslim, fundamentalist Muslim, and then among fundamentalist Muslims, we have jihadis, right? That's the way I look at it. But that's obviously too complicated for most people. So the simplified version of it is average Muslims and jihadis, right? Not Islamists, average Muslims and jihadis. And for the religion, it's just Islam. There is no Islam, Islamism, Islam, but simplification for categorizing among people, average Muslims and jihadis. And the reason why I like the word jihadi is because you could show that jihadism is Islam. So if an average Muslim is not being a jihadi, they're going against the Quran, because the Quran makes it very, very clear that you have to be a jihadi.
I also would like you to share the link you shared earlier today on Ella, the IDF soldier who is also a Muslim. I think that's important to share.
Okay, I will.
Down.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to Shauna for a response.
Okay, I appreciate all that, and I'm not condemning, all billions of people, but I do want strict, and I don't know how to do this with our Constitution. This is like a very complicated thing that I on a technical level, do not know how to do, but I do want a ban on this religion coming into our country. I don't trust them. And I think it's fair, given the behavior of the majority or even the level of violence from the minority, to say, look, this is a threat. It's just like communism to me. Like, I'm sorry, like we exported communists during McCarthyism. I don't see why that should be any different towards another ideology whose goal is to overthrow our Constitution and our country. And to be honest, the other issue that I see is the younger generations are not becoming less radical, they're becoming more radical. The older ones are the moderates. are the older ones that are my age and older are more nominal. The people that are younger than me, I'm 40. The people who came into this country 20 years ago are usually pretty moderate. They're usually people who, because they were escaping the radicalism. But the people who are born here, who are second or third generation, those are the ones I'm seeing wearing hijabis. It's not the 40-year-olds, it's not the 50-year-old Muslims, the nominals that are wearing the hijabis, it's the 20-year-olds. That's the concern I have. So like and to be honest, it's because currently I'm in a college town. In a month I'm moving back to a more labor town, which will be great, but it's still pretty leftist in some ways because it's so secular here that they don't understand the threats of religion because they think religion is something very, very personal. The very concept of a public religion is confusing. I didn't understand it until I started to study it because it's so foreign to this particular area. Most people believe in God, but they're the highest reported population are very similar to Iran, honestly, where it's like a lot of nons. It's people who believe in God, but they're not religious. And so even the concept of they just see it as a culture and they don't understand it as a religion. They don't understand it as an ideology that wants to overthrow the United States. And they also just see it as, well, yeah, lots of people have radical views when they're young because they did, and then they kind of got houses and learned what taxes are, and so they think that that's what is going to happen with these young radical Muslims, which I do not believe. So I still consider it a threat. I don't trust them, and if I see a person with a hijab, I'm sorry, I don't think I'm evil for assuming that this person has radical views. And as far as bringing them closer, no, I think that their religion should be publicly mocked because what's happening right now is it's racist. It's considered racist to criticize their faith. So Christians can take it in the neck all day, every day in this country, in a predominantly historically Christian country. They can take it in the neck all day, everywhere. Nobody says shit. Jews are taking it in the neck now in ways that I've never seen in my lifetime. And that's both, it's anti-Semitism, it's anti-Judaism, and it's anti-Israelism. It's all three. I'm seeing all three. And what we're just not allowed to mock this one. I'm sorry. I should be able to put up pictures of Muhammad mocking him on every signpost in my area without receiving any violence. I should be able to do that, and I know that I can't. That's ridiculous.
Cherry, Shauna, do you think anything you said contradict what I was saying at all?
Yeah, because you want us to bring us closer to Muslims, and I don't. I want to mock them. I want to be able to publicly mock them.
Okay, you completely misunderstood me. Let me actually re-explain all of this, okay? So this is my fault, maybe, if I didn't explain. I have been mocking Islam most of my life. I've been burning the Quran on camera. I have created annual events when it comes to mocking religion and attacking Islam. Okay? So nothing you said contradicts anything I said. Now let me explain. First of all, I have been saying that if it was up to me, there would be zero migration from any Islamic country. Zero. Not even one person. Not even one person from any Islamic country. That doesn't contradict me saying that there are good Muslims. Yeah, there are good Muslims. We can't afford to take a risk. We can't afford to take a risk because there are good Muslims out there. Western civilization needs to be protected from the risk. Your population has on per capita way more problematic people than other societies. Me saying per capita you have bigger problems does not deny the existence of good people among your population, but it also means that we cannot afford to let you in, even if it means that some well-deserving people are not going to get what they actually do deserve. Sorry, protecting Western civilization is a priority, but it is also true that there are some Muslims that are good people. But when you say we shouldn't be letting them in, I agree with that. That doesn't contradict the fact that some of them are good people. Stop migration completely. from these places. So I don't know. That didn't contradict what you said. Didn't contradict what I said. And also, not only that, I will go farther. I will say there are good Muslims, and good Muslims are also part of the problem. Good Muslims are the problem because they make Islam look good, and they good Muslims are the grass that the snake of Islam hides in, and I understand that. But at the same time, they are good people. And me understanding that they are a problem doesn't mean that I'm going to mistreat them. I will mock Islam if they feel like they're mistreated because I'm mocking Islam. That is their problem. I'm not attacking you as a person. Go ahead and mock atheism. I don't see that as an attack on me. Go ahead and make fun, make joke. Let me finish. Mike, I'm not done. I mute your mic because I'm hearing a lot of background. Thank you. If I mock Islam, I think people like mocking Islam should be a priority. If a good Muslim sees me attacking them because I'm mocking Islam, okay, that's your problem. Don't come to me. If it's going to push them away. Dahlia, for example, knew that I burned the Quran, that I mock Islam, and she still considers herself my friend. If she wants to see me as a friend, even though she knows I mock Islam and I burn the Quran, good on her. If somebody thinks that I'm attacking them personally because I mock Islam, well, then go somewhere else. I don't need your friendship, right? I'm just not going to attack you personally as an individual. I'm going to keep mocking your prophet and your Quran and your Allah and your entire religion. But if you're not harming me or if you're not harming society, I don't mean any harm against you individually. If you see me mocking Islam as me harming you individually, then you're a little snowflake that this is your problem that you have to deal with, right? And then you say, I don't trust them. Okay, this is not about trust. Yeah, of course you shouldn't trust them. You shouldn't trust me, to be honest. You shouldn't trust anybody. Okay? This is me saying that I will continue attacking Islam, but if a Muslim is not attacking us or is not mistreating us or is not doing anybody any harm, I'm not going to wish that person any harm or attack them individually. And I'm going to be nice to them. I'm going to be friendly to them. There is no reason for me to be unfriendly to an individual Muslim if they're being friendly to me. Okay, recognizing that individual Muslims could be good people and we could be nice to them does not mean that we're underestimating the threat of Islam, that we are against a policy that stops all migration from Muslim countries. We should be there. That we don't understand that these good Muslims are also part of the problem. Okay, but just because we understand that they're part of the problem doesn't mean that I'm going to be unfriendly towards individual Muslims. And mocking Islam doesn't mean that I'm being unfriendly towards individual Muslims, right? And I don't think it's just Islam that should be publicly mocked. I think all ideas should be publicly mocked. If you can't handle being mocked, that's your problem. Even good ideas should be publicly mocked. Even ideas that I support should be publicly mocked. Every idea should be publicly mocked. When I say there are individual good Muslims that I'm going to be friendly with, that does not mean that I'm going to hold back against attacking their religion. The aim should be destroying Islam. The aim should be annihilating Islam. The aim should be ending Islam. Okay, I'm not saying we're going to achieve that, but that should be the aim. Me not being unfriendly to an individual and not judging them individually, that doesn't mean that I'm going to trust their religion, that I'm going to hold back. That doesn't even mean that I'm going to trust that individual person. That's all I'm saying. So I agree with everything that you said, and I don't think anything you said contradicted what I said. But I don't know. Let me know if I clarify anything that I said that is clarifying at all.
I hear you. I hear all of that. I guess the problem where I'm having a hard time, and maybe this is just a me problem, okay? Now that I'm thinking about it, is if your religion is your identity, if that's your identity, if it's your primary identity, then you will feel attacked if your religion is mocked. I also want to preface this by a secondary caveat to that, which is you have a benefit in the fact that you're an atheist. So you don't really have skin in the game when it comes to a religious standpoint, because you're not a Christian, you're not Zoroastrian, you're not Jewish, right? You're an atheist. So you can more easily mock Islam because, first of all, you're an ex-Muslim, but also as an atheist, you can just mock all religions equally. Whereas I think it's harder for people who have a religious worldview. And if your religion is your identity, then they're going to take it as a personal. Now, granted, I hear what you're saying, that that's them, but I just assumed that most of them, given the amount of which Islam plays in people's lives, I would assume that being Muslim is their identity. That's why there's such a thing as nominal Muslims. That was my understanding. So they might just take it that way.
So yeah, but that's their problem. I'm doing the right thing. That is their problem. If they take it that way, if they I'm going to be a good person. I'm going to treat individual people the way that they should be treated, unless they are threatening me, and I will mock their religion. And you're like, well, Armin, they're going to take it personally anyways. I don't care. That is their problem. I did the right thing. I was individually nice to people. I mocked your religion. If you're taking it personally, I don't care. That's your issue. I did the right thing. You could get offended. Good, actually. I'm happy that you're offended. Maybe you need to get more offended so that eventually some of you get desensitized.
Okay, I've got a lot of replies. So first is
Okay.
Monkey.
Okay, why do we want to import anyone? If you're a Christian, stay out. I don't give a fuck if you're a Christian. We got too many peoples in here. Get out, Christians. If you're not from here, get the fuck out. You're Jewish, get the fuck out. You're Christian, get the fuck out. You're an atheist, get the fuck out. You're a Buddhist, get the fuck out. I don't give a shit what you believe. Stay the fuck out. I want everyone. I want a human ban. That's what I want. I want a human ban. No more humans. You're not getting a visa. You're getting nothing. As far as politicians, why would you trust a Christian politician? Why would you trust an atheist politician? Jimmy Carter was a Baptist. So was Bill Clinton. He was a Southern Baptist, right? Biden was a Catholic. Romney was I think it was a Mormon. Why would I trust any of these people? I don't care what religion you are or lack thereof. I don't trust you. I don't trust humans, animals, or things. Why the hell would you trust these people based on something like a religion or a race or a gender? That's stupid. That's making you stupid. You're going to put one person in charge of everything because I look like me, mirror. IT mirror, look like me. That's stupid. That's how you get conned. Of course you don't trust them. They're politicians. I remember when it was healthy to say don't trust politicians. Now we're looking for a mirror. No. I want a human ban and to get rid of this idea that we should trust politicians because of their religion, their race, their gender. I don't care. Get rid of all of them and don't trust any politician ever. It's ridiculous.
Okay, interesting take. Samantha?
So I was gonna say I want to say that I'm like very appreciative of Dahlia for like everything she's done. I also want to say like from a practical standpoint, getting like a thing in the Constitution to ban Muslims is from immigrating to the U.S. is going to be so absurdly difficult. Like I think you need to make a constitutional amendment. I think you need like 2/3 of the Congress to propose it, and then like 3/4 of like the state legislatures to approve of it. Like you're more likely if you try to get that type of amendment, you're far more likely to radicalize people on the left who are going to be like, oh my God, like Muslims are in danger. And, you know, like you're more likely to radicalize people on the left than you are to actually succeed at passing anything. And also, like, I kind of want to say, like, I trust no one. So, like, the thing is, like, for it to make sense to, like, not want to let people immigrate because you don't trust them. Like, I don't trust anyone. But, like, the thing is, like, you have to trust, like, if you also don't trust Americans, then like, you know, like it's why would you have to think that the group of immigrants is less trustworthy than than Americans, and like there's definitely groups out there who have immigrated to this country and committed disproportionately less crimes. I think I think people who've immigrated from specifically South Korea, I think have a very low crime rate compared to the average American. So it doesn't to me, it doesn't make sense. Like, why are we banning these people? Yeah.
Next is Sherry. Sherry?
I don't see her.
Oh, okay. Next is Dajal.
Dajal.
First of all, I agree with you on calling them jihadist instead of Islamist. I think that gets the idea across a lot better. Calling them Islamist makes it seem like you're talking about two different kinds of Islam, when in fact there is only one form of Islam, and it's all bad. Doesn't matter whether you're talking about Sunni or Shia. It's all bad. There's no redeeming it. You just need to attack it and basically chop it down. The big Islamic tree needs to be chopped the fuck down, and that's all there is to it. So when you're talking about the true Muslims, which are the jihadists, that's how you need to talk about how you need to refer to them as jihadists, because they are the true Muslims. I've said many times that the only good Muslim is a bad Muslim, like you said yourself. But the best Muslim is an ex-Muslim. And of course you have the sayings, like radical Islam. Radical Islam is the snake in the grass. Moderate Islam is the grass that hides the snake. Radical Muslims want to kill you. Moderate Muslims want radical Muslims to kill you. And I stand by all that. Now, are there individual outliers, like you talk about, who don't believe in that, and who, as people, call themselves Muslims, but are actually much better than religion? Yes, there are, absolutely. Such as your friend that you just talked about. Another one would be Lubna Zayedi from Candid with Lubna. I would consider her one of those outliers, no doubt about it. The problem is that these individuals, for the most part, are simply utterly irrelevant. They do not really matter in the long run or in the statistics, because even the other so-called moderate Muslims will come after them, like that fucking bush rat bitch who went to the fucking funeral. Like she harassed Lubna, said like she's brought this upon herself, demonizing our community, blah blah blah. Even though she's what you would call a lipstick Muslim, and in many ways, this actually makes her worse than someone wearing a goddamn potato sack over herself. And the bottom line is, there's not that many of them, and they're irrelevant. And frankly, they give these people cover, wittingly or unwittingly, intentionally or unintentionally. They just do. And as far as Muslim politicians go, I would never vote for a Muslim politician. Period. I don't care how individually different they may or may not be. And it's entirely possible you could have someone who, in their heart of hearts, yes, is really trying to make a difference, but it's simply too much of a risk. And therefore, I'm simply going to cut them off at the pass and not even consider the idea of it. It's not a thing for all practical intents and purposes when you really get down to it. Like, yeah, as individuals, you can like them, you can get along with them, you can be friendly with them. But at the end of the day, they're really just fucking irrelevant. And also, quite frankly, like personally, I avoid making Muslims as friends. I just do. It's not worth my time. I find it weakens me, and it's just not tenable for me. It's too much of a risk, and frankly, I just don't have the heart for it. even though I do know there are individuals who are nice enough people. I just don't take the effort because I don't want to help Islam in any way, shape, manner, or form at all. And that's just the way it is. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. That's actually making a lot of sense. Just a quick question. So I see, like, even if there are outliers, it's not worth the risk to elect them because you never know. Okay, I get that, right? And also you're saying there are outliers and they're irrelevant because there's, either there's too few of them, or even if there's more of them, they're not doing much to make a difference. I also get that. But that all comes with the recognition. I think that nothing you said negates what I'm saying, because and you don't have to be friends with them. Again, per capita, you know that these people have more of an issue, so you're just avoiding risk. I also get that. Also, personally, you don't like to make an effort. That's completely makes sense as well. But all of everything you said comes with the recognition of two things, and let me know if you agree with it, that these outliers exist and some of them are genuinely good people, right? Even if it's irrelevant, they do exist. And also with the recognition that it doesn't make any sense to personally be hostile to these types of individuals. Even if you don't want to be friends with them, that makes sense, right? For risk aversion. But also to these specific individuals, even if they're irrelevant, hostility towards these individuals as people is not a good policy. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, I don't. I like the friend you were talking about. Like, I'm not going to be purposely hostile to her by any means. I don't see the point in doing so. If, however, I do say something that ends up offending her, such as like burning a Quran or something to that effect, then so be it. Like, that's just the way it is. But yeah,
I agree.
Yes,
I agreed. 100% agree. I agree with you. Okay.
Right. So Armin, you were next. So you just spoke. So
okay,
I'm next. So I'm just going to point out that number one, the reason why people like Dalia Zaida is such a good person is she would be a good person in any faith or in no faith. She's a good person. That's why she's that way. So, it has nothing really to do with whether she's Muslim or not. That's my belief. But the people are freaking out in the chat about how, yes, Prince Reza Pahlavi says he's a Shiite Muslim, and that Mohammad Reza Shah was also Shiite Muslim. But also, this is what is different about them. They put Iran and nation above that. And that is why the mullahs hated them. That is why they hated the Pahlavis at all. That's why they hate most Iranians, because they were Iranian above being Muslim. They were sort of nominal cultural, but not really what they saw as being actually Muslim. And for me, to get back to the actual topic, which is Muslim politicians, I think that to be a politician, you must put the needs of the country or your constituents over Islam. So essentially, you need to be like Reza Pahlavi. That's what you need to be like if you want to be a politician or a leader of a country in any way. You need to put the country above any religion. And that makes you legitimate. But if you can't do that, you absolutely do not belong in politics because you have a different allegiance. So the next person is Rebecca. She did say she.
Yeah, I didn't. Wait, let me fix. I didn't expect to make it. So, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah. I didn't. So I was just gathering gossip about Dahlia behind the scenes as we speak. Well, here's okay. So I'm gonna give a third option that has nothing to do with Dahlia. But here's another aspect of it, which is important to consider. One is there are people who after COVID got addicted to wearing masks because they got like they felt more confident with it on. So if somebody wore hijab all their lives, they might not feel like they can be without it because they are it's more of like a physical thing and psychological, and like there are a lot of elements there. And there are people who are literally addicted to wearing like the COVID masks, you know, so believe me, it's possibility. The other thing is that if you believe in God and you want to pray, it feels kind of, I guess it's weird to make up your own prayers or if it soothes you, if it's type of, and you kind of need to join whatever exists. And let's be honest, like the real two options maybe is Christianity and Judaism. Christianity requires you a leap of craziness, which is like, yes, somebody rose from the dead and I believe it now. And and Judaism is very exclusive. And if somebody needs to pray, they might not have an alternative to moving from Islam to something else. Like I truly believe there should be. I truly believe that there is a psychological truth like to it. Needs to be something that is, you know, close enough, but not that. Could be like as a transitional phase, you know, it's like you give people like their small like bike wheels. The other thing about Dalia is that she has a complicated story when it comes, like I'm hearing from, like I'm telling you, I'm getting like from inside of Egypt some stories. But on the same, I don't want to go into it because I know a lot of similar stories that happened in the USSR in the same fashion, in the same manner. And once you move from a pressure system that controls your mind and then with the moment you see what it really is, and then until you finally like accept it, I can see like I saw it happening. At the same time, there is a lot, and I'm going to say it very carefully. It takes a lot of mental strength for geopolitics. It takes a lot of really counterintuitive, brutal honesty, sometimes to the extent of admitting that like your family is not good, that, you know, if you're honest about the situation and you're going to put them in jeopardy, it's what happens when you do something like geopolitics. You have to be and it is not easy. And because of that, even without wanting to do anything that is bad, without wanting to lie, without wanting any type of let's say like really like completely being divorced of all the toxic elements of Islam and just, you know, having that like literally a list of a lot of things that are very plausible and also very plausible together. Always have your own judgment. People carry a lot with them, and it means that what they see and how they see the world, you know, it's like we all have it, whether it's for me, like how I see Westerners and politeness as somebody who doesn't come from that culture, or whether it's like Armin and how he sees religion and what it is and what it isn't. Just saying it does have a side effect that is unfortunate, which is also like for people that are outside where they don't know the nuances. When you approve of something, it looks like you approved of it once you approved the symbol of it. They don't see like they don't, oh, it's just because this is a special case. They see like, okay, that symbol is approved. It is fine. And so that means that we can accept the institution behind it. So that's just several things, but honesty and also I think like a set of like principles that are clear that would also like cover for it. That's all. Well, I really have to go now.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you. Interesting perspective.
Thank you.
Thank you. Glad we could hear you.
Next is Monkey.
Okay, now, like when I was saying ban everybody, like every single religion, every single race, every single gender, doesn't matter, like furries to everyone. I wanted to expand that, right? It's not just no humans coming in. I want to bring back exile, right? We just took 175,000 visas, and basically they're excommunicado. Some of them were banned for celebrating Charlie Kirk's death. I want more of that. Like, I don't want, like, not only do I want to ban people for coming in, don't worry, we'll get robots. We don't need you, right? I also want to bring back exile, not only of people with visas, but also Americans. Why aren't we doing this? It was done throughout the longest of times. It worked great. I'm saying bring back exile, and continue. Not just the illegal aliens, people with visas too. You F around, you find out. This, I want total and complete ban, exile, and stop trusting politicians. I don't care. Like, is it a human saying things? Why are you trusting it? You shouldn't trust
You said
humans,
that.
animals, or things.
Okay. All right.
Right. Actually, I did want to respond to Monkey's previous anti-immigrant rant. As an immigrant to the United Kingdom from America, I had to prove that I would be a net contributor. And that was a very difficult thing to do. So if you can do that, if you can prove you're going to be a net contributor to the country that you're going to, then that's good immigration. But I mean, really, the issue that we see is people are coming in, based on asylum, and that is very, very difficult to prove. And especially, no country should have to take in people for asylum. They absolutely do not. They should not. No country should be forced to do that. It isn't fair. It's not their problem that is whatever's going on in your country is bad. And in my opinion, if things that are going badly in your country, then try and change it and work on that. And if things do change in the country you came from, then great, you can go back there. But we're not seeing that. People who are claiming asylum, they go to the country they supposedly escaped on holiday. That's ridiculous. So after me is Ram.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. I don't know what's over my school app today. Just 2 points. One, on immigration, just quickly, it's hilarious how people claim to hate where they came from and the way of life that's established in their hometown, and then they come to a new country and do the exact same thing, and then they blame the hosts. Secondly, with this thing of kind of the whole argument of good Muslim, bad Muslim, or if you're a Muslim, you are not essentially dedicated to your country. I know personally of a person who was a general in the Imperial Army of Muhammad Reza Shah. He would pray. Yeah, he had a Quran in Farsi, and he would pray 5 times a day in Farsi. And just to give you perspective on how much he hated the Islamic regime, he never switched his passport to an Islamic regime passport. He said, I don't want to, I'm never going to leave the country, and I do not want my name associated with these animals, but he was a devout Muslim. However, once he learned about the Islamic regime and the way that they were behaving and the things that they were promoting, his faith slowly and slowly dwindled to the point where a part of him absolutely broke and died. And he kind of passed away a broken-hearted man. So it's a super complex thing, just like Rebecca said. When you get used to something as a safety blanket, religion can be that for a lot of people, especially one as invasive and as is dictative, the correct word, as Islam. And so, yeah, That's all. I just want to add that.
So that's all. Do you have any super chats?
Yes, we got two super chats. One is from Van Dyveld saying, "I'm Christian, but not mad at people mocking. Sorry for them." Yep, that means that you have thick skin. Thank you, Van Dyveld, for the super chat. And hold on. Oh, by the way, Lior was saying, "Did y'all put a 2?" I'm all ears. Lior was really excited that the job had put a 2 in the chat. There was a comment here saying, "I have no trust." Sorry, nobody talked about trust. Nobody, we didn't say you need to trust people. I don't know why every time we say some Muslims are good people, every time somebody says I don't trust them, we never suggested that you should trust people. Every time I say that, somebody's like, we don't trust them. Like, recognizing that some of them are good people does not mean you need to trust them. It just means that, like, being hostile to everybody, it doesn't make any sense. But mocking Islam, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And somebody, okay, so Sherry here in the chat was saying, friendly, tell their the majority, no thank you. Yeah, being friendly to people or not being friendly to people doesn't have much of an impact on them being a majority or not. So you could be, you don't even need to be friendly to them. I'm just saying, if there are individual good Muslims, just being hostile to them doesn't make it, that is not good policy. And you being hostile to them does not decrease the chances of them being majority. In fact, it works with the policy of the jihadis, because once they're already in, you being hostile to them pushes them into their circles, and that's exactly what they want. Again, you guys could be like, some of you think that I'm suggesting that you should be less aggressive towards Islam. You could be as aggressive. You should, in fact, not. I advocate for being extremely aggressive against Islam. Being hostile to individual people, that's a different thing than being aggressively anti-Islam. Those are two different things. And Christian, with a 10 joules. Thank you so much from Christian or Ronaldo. Thank you so much for the super chat. Okay, for the joules. All right. So what's the next topic?
Next is Raham.
Raham.
Hi again. So a 24-year-old woman by the name of Marzia Neji was executed on August 8th, I believe, in the city of Ghazvin on the charge of adultery. The story of what happened with her is absolutely tragic. So this poor girl was married at 17, and since 18, she was sexually abused by her husband and the husband's associates. And at 18, one time, the story is that an associate of the husband came to sexually assault her, and she pulled out a knife to defend herself and ended up killing the guy with the knife, killing the husband with a knife who got in the way. And she's been in prison since for 6 years. And during the court hearing, the guy that was going to assault her came and said that, yeah, like, this is a lie. I did no such thing. She had premeditated the murder of her husband, and that's what happened. And she's using this as an excuse. For reference, Iran is the #1 murderer of women by way of execution. I don't know how many years running, but it's been a while. And in order for you to be, if you ever bring up a rape charge in the Islamic Republic of Iran, you need to have 4 males come and testify that what you're saying is true. If you cannot produce such a thing, your testimony is used against you, and you are tried for adultery. And you can be, I believe, lashed, executed, or sent to prison. And being in prison for 6 years for adultery in the Islamic regime means daily rape and extreme abuse. And this is not an isolated case. Something very similar to this happened in 2014, I believe. It was a girl by the name of Rayhane Jabbari who was married at, I think, 18, and then a year later she killed her husband for the same reason. And so it happens all the time. It's not an isolated incident. Just want to bring that up again. Name again of this girl is Marzia Neji, who was married at 17. 17-year-old as a child. So
First to reply is Kathy.
It's such a tragedy. It's awful that it happened, and she will always be one of my jobbing mates. We want to mention that honor killings are very common.
So, Kathy, is it just me or is her audio getting cut?
It's like every other word.
Oh.
There are 3 of you also, so that might be it.
There's only me, I promise. I mean, what am I saying?
Yeah, for some reason your audio getting cut in and out. Try again.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, but it gets cut. It's okay. Just say what you were gonna say.
Honor killings are a very common thing in Iran. Like I know back in 2022, I don't remember the lady's name, but she was 17 and she was the head hunter.
I'm having a hard time understanding what you're saying. Maybe if you could write it down. Sorry, Kathy. Or maybe you could exit. You could exit school and come back and see if that helps. I'm sorry, because what you're saying is so important. So I feel bad that this is happening. Okay. Nell Bunny?
Yeah, well, she was the only 2, so should we wait for her to come back, or what do you think?
You decide. We can move on, I guess, until
we could go to Noah. Noah, midterms.
Oh, midterms. Okay.
Yeah. So yesterday, when we were talking about the midterms, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Armin. But I think you were saying that there were people in Iran worried about some of the DSA candidates like El Sayed, who could be winning this November. And I realized I listened to the YouTube afterwards, and I listened to myself and realized that I sounded like I wasn't reading the room. Like I didn't sound like I'm not going to say what I thought I sound like, but it was like I wasn't reading the room. And after hearing some of the people and some of the responses, I realized that, and I wanted to say my bad for that. I don't want to, try not to say sorry. But having said that, I think part of the reason I said that was because I'm an optimist. I don't think a lot, like from what I said yesterday, by saying it was too early, and I wasn't worried because I was looking at some of the polling data from the top 2 main DSA candidates. Francesca Hong in Wisconsin, she's running for governor. She is currently neck and neck to the predictions are saying that she'll lose her race. And then as for El Sayed, some of them were showing the Republican candidate, Mike Rogers, winning, or the race being a toss-up or being too close. So, saying that, like, that's why I, said what I said yesterday, but I also realized I wasn't reading the room and I didn't have a lot of empathy when thinking that. So,
I think you don't have. I think you don't have enough empathy for yourself. I think you're overly judgmental of yourself, and you overthink these things, and you torture yourself for getting things that you think you got really wrong. Maybe I'm misreading now, but I think like you really go on.
No, I think you're right. There are sometimes I overreact. I didn't know if I overreacted on this one, but there were some points that I didn't get to yesterday. Like some of the candidates, like the top two candidates, are set to like they're neck and neck, or they might lose their seats. So I didn't think they were going to win, or they may not win. I don't think a lot of the DSA candidates are going to win, in my opinion. But I think, yeah.
Okay, but I just I think you judge yourself more harshly than anyone else, and I think you're imagining people judging you as harshly as you're judging yourself. And I honestly, if anybody is judging you as harshly as you're judging yourself, like fuck them. We shouldn't care about their opinion as much as you do. But just go a little bit easier on yourself.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Kathy's back, so I thought we could just pop back and just get her reply, and then we can move on.
Hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
I had to log out and log back in. So I was saying is it was unfortunate what happened to her, and we'll always remember her, and she's one of our jubbing numbs now. I also wanted to bring up honor killings are so common in Iran, and it actually made me think of a story of, I don't remember her name, but she was 17 years old. It was back in 2022, right before the Masa Amini movement happened. She had fled to Turkey. Her family told her that if she came back, nothing would happen to her. Then as soon as she got back, her husband, who was her cousin, beheaded her, and he was parading around the town with her head. And you remember her name, Armin? I can't remember her name, but it made me think of that story, and it's stories like those. They happen all the time in Iran, and it's something we have to put to a stop once Iran is freed.
Yeah, Kathy, can I say, Nobody, can I say something now to Kathy? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so Kathy, one thing about honor killing that I think it's important to tell people is two things, okay? First of all, honor killing is more common among Muslim communities compared to any other communities by a huge margin. And if you look at all the places where our honor killing is common, you could see that there is a difference in culture, like the pre-Islamic culture. Geographically, they're very different from each other. Historically, they're different from each other. Almost everything, ethnicity, everything that you could think of is that, they're different, but the only thing they all share is Islam, right? Like if you isolate for all the factors, the only thing that remains that could possibly explain this level of honor killing would be Islam. And then you look at Islamic scripture, it doesn't actually endorse honor killing, right? Like, for example, killing your daughter for her having sex with another unmarried, having sex out of marriage is not something that Islam considers to be okay. In fact, it's a sin. So people point out like, okay, this is happening mostly in Muslim communities, which is true. And then Muslims push back to it and say, well, this is not endorsed by Islam. In fact, this is a sin in Islam. So why are you blaming Islam? And I think it's important for us to be able to have a good response to this, because obviously the data shows that this has something to do with Islam, right? So, and a lot of people don't understand the way religion influences things, right? So it's true that Islam doesn't tell you that you can kill your daughter because of her having sex outside of marriage. It does not. Well, you can't kill her. There needs to be. She's supposed to be killed, but not like that. She's supposed to be killed by by her father or her brother. There needs to be a council. There's supposed to be a judgment pass, and then they will stone her to death or something like that. Which, yeah, a lot more civilized way of killing, I guess, than your father or your brother killing. Okay. Anyways, but honor killing is not allowed. The thing is that Islam does so many other things that ends up contributing to honor killing, right? Islam normalizes physical violence against women. right? So that is a normalization in the Quran itself. In fact, it commands it. Islam contributes to shame culture, to honor culture, and shame culture, which is actually the same thing, right? Which is rape culture. Honor culture is rape culture. And Islam also reduces the punishment for men for doing such sins. The punishment for such sins are low in Islam for doing something. Like if you kill your daughter, so if you kill your daughter, the punishment for it is significantly less than if you kill your own son. First of all, if you kill your child, the punishment for it is less than killing somebody else that is not your child, because your children are considered to be yours. But even among your own children, killing your daughter has significantly less punishment than killing your own son. So yes, they consider it bad and it should be punished, but you could see, given that the punishment for it is low, physical violence against women is normalized, and there's shame culture associated with, sexual degeneracy outside of what Islam allows. You could see why you get, and also on top of that, the fact that at the end of the day, the Islam considers the punishment for such an act to be death, anyways. All of this combined together contributes to honor killings, even if it's not directly in the scripture. So I just wanted to point that out, so that if anybody tells you ever that Islam is not responsible for honor killing, because show me the verse. If they tell you, show me the verse that you could that tells me that you could do this, because you show them empirical data and you show them that honor killing is more common among Muslim communities. They tell you, show me the verse that allows this. And then what they say is that the problem is with Muslims, not with Islam. And I say, well, if the problem is with Muslims, why is it mostly Muslims? It must be the Islam part of being Muslim that causes this, because you don't see this in other people. You don't see this level of honor killing in other people. So if the problem is Muslims, the source is Islam. And this is the explanation for why Islam causes honor killing.
So, Kathy, would you like to reply?
I definitely appreciate information. I didn't know all those nuances. This just further proves that Islam is an abomination and shouldn't even not only in the West, but it shouldn't exist in the world. Although that's probably not a realistic expectation. It's probably always going to be around. I just wish that there'd be something that can be done to stop this kind of evil from happening.
Well, don't say always. I'm a bit optimistic. Maybe it will take a long time, but it will. Again, I might sound too optimistic, but it will end one day.
I just wanted to say something about like the honor part, and for to kind of call back to everybody talking about when they see women in hijab, that keep in mind that a lot of them are in that hijab because if they were to take it off, especially here in the UK, there are so many people, and there are enclaves of Muslims, that it will get back to Pakistan that your cousin or whatever in the UK isn't wearing hijab. And then they'll beat up like their family in Pakistan or worse because you're not wearing hijab in the UK. And then you're like, okay, fine, I'll put the freaking hijab back on. Just stop beating up my family. So keep that in mind. That happens. It's rampant. And it's probably the biggest reason why we should not have these ghettos and these enclaves. If they bring these people in, they should, quite frankly, they should be like, no, you need to live here, and you need to integrate. We don't want you to have, just being amongst the people in the country you left, because then nothing changes and you never integrate, and you will always be wearing that, and you will never really fit in. Jeff put it 2 even after I said no 2s. So please, okay. I'm letting you, please. Please, brief, thanks.
Oh, sorry, I had to take a call, so I came in. Forgive me, that's my ignorance. Yeah, I mean, so Zena, I'm probably mispronouncing that, in classic Islamic law, prescribes punishments for adultery. And I kind of posted it in the chat. And Armin's also correct that also gets amplified or is an amplification of pre-Islamic tribal kind of Arabian and South Asian kind of honor shame cultures. So there's no doubt that while there's no specific, text like passage in the Quran or strong hadith, to the best of my knowledge, that supports honor killings, it does indeed normalize punishments against those that Islam engage in sexual deviancy as Islam fucking finds it. And, it disproportionately targets more vulnerable elements of your demographic. We just watched the stoning of Soraya M. That was actually a very famous case of a woman inside Iran whose husband was trying to bang a younger girl and just falsely claimed that his wife committed adultery, and that woman was stoned to death. So yeah, I mean, very much the classical school. Yeah.
So you could go to super chats, 1 or 2, I don't know.
One. We have one super chat from Zipgun saying, "It is wrong to want to. Is it wrong to want two sane parties, or is it enough to root for the one you think is sane? I live in New York with single party rule. It's not a good thing." Yeah, so Zipgun wants to have two good parties, not just like a Republican Party. He says like he wants also to have a good Republican Party and a good Democratic Party. It would be horrible if we just have one good party that we're supporting. He thinks that would make it a single party thing. But I mean, Zipcon, I think I agree with you. But right now, obviously, the Democratic Party, there's not much hope for it. So hopefully, one day we could have a healthy alternative to the Republican Party. So yeah, but yeah, no, it's not. It is sane to want that. It's just that we don't have that. so yeah, we don't have that. We only have And Amu Jeff is saying support an AI party. Oh my god, that's good. All right. Okay, nobody. Thank you, by the way, for the support.
So, right, 2 minutes to go, and you can just say goodbye.
All right, so let me stop the recording. Guys, in half an hour, we're going to go live again on Liberty Politics YouTube channel. So make sure you hit not just the subscribe. It's not enough to hit the subscribe button. You also have to hit the bell notification. YouTube will not tell you that we're live if you only hit the subscribe button. You also have to hit the bell notification, and then you also have to hit select all. Don't just click the bell notification. Click it, and then go pick the all button. Okay, do that. Thank you. Please do that. All right, guys. I'm going to go get ready for the next stream with Ali. And so make sure he's going to give us all the updates on not just the Middle East. He's moving to Ukraine stuff as well and U.S. politics as well. But he's probably going to start with Iran and the Middle East and stuff like that. All right. So we'll see you guys there. And guys, in the group, you guys continue the conversation without me. I'll see you guys same time tomorrow. And until then, I'm Israel Chai, Slava Ukrainie, Cuba Libre, Taiwan Jiayo, Long Live America, Javid Shah, Payende, Iran. Mwah.